It feels weird being back. Or maybe not back, but just chatting for tonight, and we'll see. Man, I think it's been like 3 months since I streamed. Maybe. Maybe 4 months. It's been a long time. What's up, Corsair? Yeah, I'm letting it grow longer, except the sides, I got it all shaved up. This is what quarantine does to you. Makes you grow your hair long, do crazy stuff. Read books? I read books now. I'm a whole new person. So yeah, this is the first time I've been streaming in quite a bit, which is kind of exciting because I wanted to talk. And we'll see if it is a recurring thing in the future. I think probably. I kind of miss it, just like having a chat, maybe playing some games, I don't know, but the chatting is mostly what I miss. I think the last time I streamed, I was building a PC, so I could wrap that end real quick. There are two machines behind me. You can see them there and there. One black case, one white case. You can go back in my other videos and see that build live. It was pretty fun, actually. Not fun has been a power issue that I've been having when trying to play any games. So we'll see if that continues. I'm sure it'll be fine tonight since I just plan on chatting for a modest amount of time. Although whenever I say that, we end up chatting for like 3 hours. So we'll see where this goes. I don't think any of the alerts or things are turned on, which is fine. But if you want to go give a thumbs up on the video, that would be awesome. So I want to talk politics tonight. Obviously, the title of the stream is America's Soul Restored Yet is a joke in Joe Biden territory with his campaign pitch being essentially, restoring the soul of America, like whatever that is supposed to mean. Platitude nonsense. A small disclaimer as we start the show that I personally consider myself a leftist. In terms of political spectrum or ideologies, I kind of agree with many of the leftist platforms where, and in my own definition, I consider that to be anti-imperialism might be one of the top for me. Anti-corruption, anti-censorship, which is where the left diverges with liberal mindset. But I saw a very funny picture, and I wish I had my capture card and stuff working. I would show it to you. But it was in our Discord, which you can find the link below this video someplace. There's a Discord there where we talk politics all day. Feel free to join. But there was a Venn diagram of conservatives, liberals, and leftists, and it was very funny in that they all joined in one center area that just said hates leftists. So the conservatives hate leftists because I think they can't tell the difference between liberals and leftists, to be honest. The liberals hate leftists because I think that the liberals want to be leftists. And leftists hate leftists because we disagree on movement direction, essentially. One of the leftist biggest problems, the left movement's big problems, is infighting, which I would, what's the correct term, postulate that it is because there is, I got such a kick out of that. Yeah, it was a good one, man. It's because there's no leadership on the left. There's just not. I had mentioned this in a thread. I think there was a conversation between Ryan Knight and Ryan Grimm on Twitter. And I had mentioned that I think some of the leftist fighting right now is in a vacuum of leadership, to be honest. There's no one really there. There was Bernie Sanders, who everyone was looking to him as the left leader. And since his exit out of the primary, both in 2016 and 2020, by the way, if we're being honest, I love Bernie Sanders. Look at my shirt. Look at this shirt. I'm a big Bernie Sanders fan. During the exits of both the primaries, he was one of the first to quickly give in to the establishment and give them whatever they need. So whatever you you know, I could see the argument that he has been subsumed by the establishment a little bit, but previous to that, he was the left leader, essentially. The people are mostly the leader, but he was kind of the main crux. And so when he disappears from that leadership role and moves back into the establishment or back into the Senate, goes back to work, which is what Bernie does, it leaves a vacuum of leadership. And sometimes in a vacuum of leadership, as we've seen in devastated and destroyed countries like Iraq and others, if there's a power vacuum, different forces start fighting. I mean, I guess in that case, it's like there's no one to control it. But in this case, there's no one to focus the anger or focus the effort. So that's why we have factions of the left that attack other factions of the left. And you can see, I mean, I think live right now on Twitter, Jimmy Dore is fighting with Ryan Grimm. And depending on which side of the fence you fall on or which person you might, it's so weird to, like, follow. I don't think either of them would purport to be leaders of the leftist movement. But depending on which one you follow, you think the other one's a complete sham and a fake and all this kind of stuff. So that vacuum has half, that the Jimmy Dore group is the Force the Vote group. That's the fraud squad group. There's a couple other nuances, but basically that, and obviously support of Julian Assange and all that stuff, which I think all leftists agree on. But then there's the Ryan Grimm side, who Ryan Grimm chooses to fight more inbounds, right? Chooses to fight more establishment, but by, you could say, by the rules set out in terms of political parties and how legislation works, right? So there's a way to fight that way as well. I find myself agreeing with both Ryan Grimm and Jimmy Dore at different times. I did agree with Force the Vote. I still agree that it was a reasonable tactic. Ryan Grimm did not, but we have agreed on many other things. So real people on the right can tell the difference. The people on the left and right don't have leftists. Oh, hate leftists. It's more that they don't want them to be alive anymore. So what do you think about the Dore Grimm debate? I think, to be completely honest, that Jimmy Dore is being clickbaity and a little ridiculous. I think that Jimmy Dore had a good argument for Force the Vote, and I think the whole leftist movement should appreciate it for that, because I think it brought another tactic to a lot of people's minds. But his tweets and his shows continually are sort of attacking in nature, but not attacking necessarily a core problem, but attacking other media entities that he doesn't agree with. Dore's a comedian as part of his shtick. Yeah, I agree. He's funny, and he's like aggressive, and also, like, the other thing that I think people don't really understand is that because there is a vacuum in left leadership, there's no one really there, right? We just sort of talked about that. Because there's that vacuum, there's no one to tell them, like, hey, this is the real focus here. Like, those people are just media commentators. Like, Jimmy Dore is essentially a Twitch streamer. He streams on YouTube, and he's very, very popular, and he has a lot of good ideas, like Force the Vote, and I appreciate that stuff. But he's a streamer. That's it. So, like, streamers can be influential too. I understand that, but like, his goal in life is not to further legislation in a progressive way, although that is something he would hope for. But his main job in life is to make money for him and his family, and that's through his YouTube show. So, like, there's always some nuance there, right? And the same thing happened in traditional media as well. So take a look at the New York Times and Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN. They started to realize that, like, if they just say bad stuff about Donald Trump in the last, like, 4 years, all of a sudden revenue's going up. and you get sort of stuck in this mode where you have to provide, you have to do good business, you have to get new subscribers, whatever. And if you know that saying X is going to bring you that income more so than saying Y, then I think you as a person and as a business entity and whatever naturally start saying more of X. It doesn't matter if you necessarily believe it's true. I think eventually you sort of convince yourself that that's where you want to go. But there is a potency to money and lifestyle that comes into play when you're talking about media personalities and their own shows and their sort of like their take. Does that make sense? It's very rare that you would find a media personality that runs a show like that is completely unbiased. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I love certain journalists and media personalities, because of that. Bernie's older and he lacks the willpower to push forward against the establishment when push comes to shove. They need someone with a bit of Bernie charisma, ideas, willingness to make things better from that side, with a reach and ability to stick it to the establishment that you see from the younger crowd. Yes, they do. And that's the vacuum. They don't have that right now. So it leads to this area where people are sort of just wandering around like, hey, we want leftist stuff, and they don't know where to target it. Now, one of the things I've suggested in the past is, why doesn't the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the CPC and the House Democrats, why don't they take over that role? Why doesn't Pramila Jayapal and AOC and Ilhan Omar and all these people put together like a roadmap? I say roadmap because in my business, like the aerospace industry, like all projects have a long roadmap that's like 10 years out, and like year 10 is launch of a satellite. I'm thinking only in terms of like my current business, but year 10 we launch a satellite. So let's roll back. What's year 9, 8, 7, 6, 5? How do we get to year 10? So what the CPC has not done effectively is tell their supporters like, okay, by year 10, year 20, 30, I don't know, we're going to have Medicare for all in this country. We're going to have Medicare for all. And in order to get there, year 1, we need to get rid of the filibuster. In year 2, we need to do this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, have it all along the way. And then you could break those down in the sub bullets. Okay, here's how many representatives we need. So we're going to target these, and all these like statistical micro targets for supporters and leftists to really go aggressively at. I think that part of the problem is that the general leftist groups aren't sure what to do. They don't know how to help. They were told Medicare for all is easily doable, and here we are, we don't have it. Like, how is it just gone? Has it evaporated? Is there still a plan? No one knows. The only thing we ever hear from the Congressional Progressive Caucus members is them tweeting going, reply to this tweet with what it would mean to you to have Medicare for all. Like, how does that help me get it? Telling you what it means to me. Tell me what it means to you that you could get evicted at any day. How are these tweets helping? Like, I understand they might help you get Twitter followers and might help your campaign donations when you send out a big email afterwards saying, hey, did you guys see my tweet? I'm talking to people about what it means to get evicted. Send me some money and I'll help fight for you. How? Is there a vote coming up? Do you have legislation on the ground? How are you going to get those votes? Who are you whipping? Who do we need to call? What exactly are the targets? There's no organization. They keep talking, and that's the other frustrating thing about the progressives in Congress. They keep talking about, oh, well, we can't do these votes. We can't do this. We can't do that. We just have to keep organizing. We have to keep fighting. They love saying this. You guys need to keep organizing on the ground, grassroots, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what is the end state? At what point in time do we go from organizing to legislating? Right now we have, it's 93, I think, members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. I know for sure that not all 93 of those are in support of things like actual progressive policies. I know that, but there's 93. So let's say, is it 97? Once we get 97, is that when legislation for Medicare for all kicks off and goes through the House? Like, what? Even if you don't think it's a good idea, even if you hate Medicare for all, you think it's a silly nonsense, even if you don't like canceling student debt, all this other stuff, even if you don't like it, you can appreciate that successful campaigns and successful missions, have strategy and organization, and there just is none. And it's a failure of leadership, is all it is. I don't necessarily agree with Fraud Squad, although I do have my own problems with AOC and that crew. I don't necessarily agree that they are all completely subsumed by the establishment. I do think that they are ineffective. I think that they are bad strategists. They are bad leaders. That whole team is bad leadership. We would have seen good leadership by now if they were good leaders. Let me catch up. I'm sorry. I feel like it's such an opportunity. If they wanted it now, the House is so close in terms of total numbers that they really could force some things if they wanted to. There was a tweet I saw today. I think it was between Dave Weigel and a couple others. I think he's a writer for the Post. But he was talking about how the Freedom Caucus made John Boehner's life like a living hell. And the Freedom Caucus, although they have disappeared, was able to push several things, get concessions on different legislation that they specifically wanted. Why? Because they literally told Boehner, F you, we're not voting for what you want us to vote for. We're just not doing it. You're going to give me what you want, or none of us are voting for it. That is the only effective way for a minority group in Congress to get what they want done. It's the only way. That's it. And then force the vote came up and it was laughed out of the room. Well, we can't do that. That's crazy. We can't risk Pelosi not getting her speakership again. First of all, it would have never gone to a Republican. Second of all, why? Like, what? The progressive leadership has such an allergy to power, such an allergy to any sort of what I would consider like a program manager, a project manager thinking. And again, I'm speaking in terms of the aerospace industry, but there's always a program manager who keeps things moving and on track. You consider the same thing in game design. You have game project managers and things. They have a set schedule. We're releasing the game in 2020. In 2010, we start building. There's milestones along the way. Where the hell are the milestones for progressive legislation? Where are they? Where's the milestone for Medicare for All? Where it's like, okay, now we're at stage 1A of Medicare for All, and now we're going to move to stage 2B, which means we're going to have to do these two different things. There's no one. The only time we heard about anything was during Force the Vote, when AOC said, well, it would just be ridiculous because it would fail, and that's because of pay-go, right? And things like that. So, okay, so that's the first target. What do we have to do to get rid of that? It can't be like this back room, coat closet deals, parking garage, they got the trench coats up, like kind of deals with the establishment. It's got to be out in the open and use the power of the people to bring them into the process, to get them on board. AOC basically, I don't remember last time she mentioned pay-go before all of a sudden on the Force the Vote, it became the only reason why she can't force the vote. But it was just silly. So that's why I think like the biggest failure right now of the CPC and progressive leadership and I consider leftists to have no real leader that exists in Congress right now, but is that there's no roadmap. There's no, the supporters of those politicians cannot see how to get from now to Medicare for All. We can't see it because no one has laid it out. It doesn't exist. Biggest issue with the squad is their ad hominem nonsense with calling everyone racist, bigoted. I can't stand that nonsense. Yeah, and like we had talked about, that whole process with, we're gonna throw Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley out of Congress, was just it was just such a mean girl clique type of. I say mean girls, but there was more than. There's several obvious. There's several women involved in the CPC, particularly the squad has more than just women members. Jamal Bowman and I think Mondaire Jones is a part of the squad as well. But it was just such like a catty type of thing. It was just, it didn't make sense. When they'll. That's another problem. they would turn around and say, well, forcing a vote on Medicare for all is silly, childish nonsense because it would never work. And then they go, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to throw people out of Congress on no evidence, and completely reject the electorate who elected those people, tell them their votes are worth nothing. That is somehow more professional than casting a vote. Like, it's just baby time shit, and it's very, very, very frustrating. So right now we have Jimmy Dore and Ryan Grimm fighting over this. It's kind of more like Jimmy Dore just screaming into the wind, and Ryan Grimm like, really? He had a very funny response a bit ago on Twitter, which is, Jimmy Dore is doing another show, an episode where it's just like, Ryan Grimm's an asshole or whatever. And Ryan Grimm responded with, you might as well just change the name of the show to the Ryan Grimm Show at this point. That's pretty funny. But, yeah, I don't know. I it's frustrating to see people that have value on the left, not necessarily in terms of like upper level leadership, but of role players in the in the play of progressivism, of leftism, and instead of helping to like solidify everyone together and to move forward, they choose instead to just fight each other. It's ridiculous. Especially those two, since I believe that they are more so on the left than some others. You could say that, oh, well, there's people attacking the leftists that are liberals. Sure, because liberals are fucking just completely ridiculous. They just want to censor everyone off the internet, and it doesn't matter. Anyone doesn't think like they do. They're going through a small civil war, to be honest. Yeah, they are. And we'll see what comes out of it. I mean, what's going to happen is, again, because of a weakness in leadership, a strong leader would see that rift growing and mend it, squash it immediately, tell everyone to get focused, forget about their nonsense. They can figure it out amongst themselves, or they can just be left in the dust, and we'll move forward. That's what real leadership would do. Come in and shut that down. I'm not saying, by the way, when I say shut down, I don't mean like censoring either of them or telling them to shut up. I don't mean that, but just focusing the viewers on like, here's what actually matters, not those two squabbling about their disagreements over process. We're going to move forward though. That's what a real leader would do. But because there is no real leader, they just fucking kill each other. That's all they do. So it's disappointing, unfortunately. There's also the fact that people are, it doesn't help that the liberal media pushes out this concept that Biden is essentially FDR. FDR being what many leftists hold up is sort of like the role model for leftist leadership. When obviously all these guys have problems in different ways. No one's a perfect person. Okay. Yeah, you're not saying you should repress them, but rather get the focus. Yeah, exactly. But FDR has some problems, which any politician would have, right? I tend to think that Bernie is probably the closest to like the full leftist, except for his weirdo like devolvement back into the establishment every election. I don't know, maybe he's just a puppet. I don't know. So the liberal media is trying to prop up Joe Biden as he is the next coming of FDR, and he's this benevolent God that's giving everyone everything they need. And then, the actual reporting on some of this stuff is that that's not the case. It's not the case at all. In fact, Joe Biden has left many of Trump's policies in place. He's continuing to build the wall, as was leaked last week. There is some strong rumor that he'll just continue to build the wall, patch it up. He has left detained children at the borders with ICE, basically just clumped up on top of each other, huddling together. And obviously it's COVID timeline. and they're separating them from their parents and all this kind of stuff. Now, whatever you think about immigration, illegal immigration, all that stuff, and how things should work out, I think everyone could probably agree that, like, hey, like, if there's children, like, they're fucking children. Like, maybe you shouldn't throw them into a cage or a cell. Like, that'd be great. But, like, Biden hasn't done anything different. He's continuing the same policies. So when that type of stuff happens, and we have AOC come out and call anyone that criticizes those policy choices that Joe Biden is making, she calls us bad faith actors or not really a part of the leftist movement. We're thinking, like, but you recently called those cages concentration camps. Like, she literally called them that, right? She called them cages, and they're like concentration camps, ICE centers. If nothing has changed since she called them that, are they not still concentration camps and cages? Isn't that logic? How can they be different because there's a new name on the cage? Same thing happened before with the Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus, like you were saying. Yeah. Yep. AOC is simply putting her finger in the wind to see which way the breeze is blowing. That's probably one of the most accurate descriptions. Yeah. And she definitely does want to be Pelosi one day. I 100% agree with that. She is moving that direction. She just had a press conference recently where she was, admonishing, or maybe that's not the right word. She was, regaling the press with how great Nancy Pelosi is as a leader in the House. It's just like, that's not, she's like the opposite of the person that leftism is about. And all her like leaked stock investments today was ridiculous. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, this is why people are upset about this stuff, and why people call Biden on his bullshit, because he's continuing the same stuff. What did we talk about on this show? On this show, I told you that I did not like Donald Trump. I would never vote for Donald Trump, but I am more afraid that we get into more wars and increased conflict if Joe Biden is in the office. I said that. I meant it, and look where we are now. We still got drone strikes, still got bombs being dropped. Syria's a nightmare. We have still any disagreement with Israeli policy is met with immediate anti-Semitism. Oh, you must hate the Jewish people because you think that Israel is treating Palestinians poorly. Like, there's just video leaked, I think last week, of a kid, had to be 8-9 years old or whatever. He was inside a shop, like a vegetable shop. He's on camera in a vegetable shop, and some Israeli soldier with like a beanbag gun or something just shoots him right in the eye. It's a kid. 8-9 years old, just shoots in the shop, hits him. There was no conflict happening, just shot into the shop. That's a very tame example. I mean, these people are just like, plus, I mean, in terms of occupying forces in another land, what is it, the Geneva Accord or something like that, a Geneva Treaty? Doesn't it say that occupying forces must take care of the people that they're occupying? So when Israel purposely declines to give them any COVID vaccine, like, is that not a crime? It's the same thing happened with what was it, today or yesterday, where Israeli what was it? There's something like I have to find it. Something about the Iranian deal, where Israeli forces have discovered that Iran, is pushing back against Israeli troops. It's like, are you in Iran? Yeah. Why? I don't know and I think that's that's not the exact story, but it's something like that, where like Israel's just pushing in on Iranian territory, and they're like, Oh, we don't like that. Oh, can you believe these guys don't like that? Like, yeah. I actually can believe that. It's weird that you say that. um, what else is? So the whole crux of the story is that Joe Biden's not doing the things that we were told that he would do. First of all, we were told we could push Joe Biden left, and that's why I should vote for him. We have to vote him, blue no matter who. We got to get Trump out. And the promise to leftists was you'll be able to push him left, we'll get progressive policies in. Where are those policies? I don't see them. I hear a lot of talk about Joe Biden considering canceling 50K of student debt. Let's do it. Where's that? Some analysis today said that 89% of student debt would be wiped out if he canceled 50K student debt. 89%. Seems like a pretty decent chunk. I'd prefer it all to be wiped out. You want to do 50%? Let's do 50%. Joe Biden has been notoriously horrible on foreign policy. This is said even by Obama officials. Yeah, and Obama wasn't great on it either. But yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he's so bad at it. Like, I'm once again worried that it's his cabinet picking it, and in his cabinet are like Bush era fucking war criminals. Like, I don't want those people calling the shots. Like, it's so frustrating. What else did Biden say today? It was something to do with police. He said, that there's no excuse for looting, which I agree with, by the way. Rioting and looting should there's got to be a better path. Although I don't endorse rioting and looting in these scenarios. However, I understand the outrage that causes rioting and looting. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want people to go out there and burn shit down or hurt other people. I don't want that. But when they do it in this circumstance, you can kind of go like and I think it was Malcolm, no, it was probably MLK that said a riot is the voice of people who are voiceless or something like that, or people who aren't being heard. So if you think, of a certain of some group of people that keep expressing issues and coming up with solutions, and you just keep saying no, 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 and this violence keeps happening, at what point do you have to say like, well, we fucking told them no, so this is what we get? There's some validity to that line of thought. I'm not endorsing violence, but there is validity to that thought train. Rise the language the unheard. That's what it was. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking voiceless, but yeah, that's it. Thank you. Trump surprised the hell out of his policy, miles better than what I expected. Yeah, Trump campaigned a lot on isolationism, which I think is wildly popular. I'm not sure why I'm not going back to that. But yeah, so when this stuff happens and nothing changes, and then there's a riot, and we go, oh my god, how could they be rioting? Like, I don't know. Like, if the people are like, hey, all I'd like to do is get $5, and you keep saying no to $5, and like at some point in time the person is starving and they go rob a food store to get bread to feed their family, and you go like, oh, how could you rob somebody? Like, motherfucker, I asked you for $5 600 fucking times and you kept saying no. At some point I can't keep asking. I gotta go get it done. So again, I don't agree with the actual act of it, but I understand the outrage. I think that people writing are largely looking to take advantage of the situation too, to be fair. Some maybe. Yep. That's plausible. I think those people are mixed in with some people that are generally like pushed to the brink. I don't know what the split percentage is on that, by the way. So like there's some people that are generally upset by the violence, and that's their motivation to protest and maybe get involved in riots. There's some people just looking to fuck around and like, do bad things. That's a portion of that. And then there's some people that like, they feel like there's no other way. that they've tried everything, they've exhausted all options, they can't do anything else, so this is the only way. Maybe this will work. I think there's some percentage of each of those groups in these riots. I don't know the percentage split, but I think there is some differentiation there. So let me think about what else is going on. So that's Biden. He's approaching his 100th day, right? Sometime soon. So see what he has done by then. There was some talk today I saw about maybe the progressives finally stand up and vote no on something on this infrastructure bill. This infrastructure package may be something that that is more tolerable to vote no on. If there's like a tolerance where like they won't vote anything that's a requirement, like you could consider the COVID relief package that came out as a requirement for the people. Fine, they have to vote yes to that. Okay. Infrastructure package, you could technically vote no on this safely and not like kill people. Is my thinking. I know you had mentioned that point too in the article you linked a few days back, the one with GG. Yes, he's had a lot of good points lately. Although Glenn it's so weird. There's a lot of interesting commentary just about Glenn in general and how people, and this is mostly liberals, by the way. This isn't, I hate when leftists get grifted with a liberal mindset of censoring everything, but they look at Glenn Greenwald, who tells uncomfortable truths about the system and about the media. And, he doesn't just go on left leaning news programs like CNN, as if they would ever invite him on. Like, let's be serious now. But he goes on a bunch of different podcasts from all over the spectrum, actually. He was on very left-leaning podcasts this week. He was also on Tucker Carlson. But the only thing people look at is like, oh, he's on Tucker Carlson, that means he's a fascist. When, like, if you look at any of the history of who Glenn Greenwald is, his, like, entire life has been spent fighting mostly the security state, but also fascist dictators. Like, that's his whole life's work. So to sit there and go like, oh, he's a fascist sympathizer and that's why he's going on Tucker, it's such like an insane, it's one of those things you hear and it's just so wrong, like your brain can't comprehend what has been said to you, right? It would be like, you see a dog and it meows at you or something. You're just like, huh? Like, you have to stop for a minute. Like, what the hell just happened? It's just so weird to even consider that. Glenn Greenwald is someone who fought the fascist dictator Bolsonaro in Brazil. I'm reading the book right now. And this guy's like, he's been violent death threats. He's been attacked. He was just robbed like 2 weeks ago. He's been, his family was rarely safe at the time because he's a huge president of the country and all this corruption. And he still like put out this stuff because it was, good for the world. And the same thing with the NSA when he was helping Snowden get the leaks out. Like, that's why people hate him, is because he tells uncomfortable truths about powerful institutions. And people look at that and go, oh, he's just doing the right wing's work, or he's just a fascist. Like, motherfucker, he is writing about and fighting against fascism. I think you are misunderstanding what fascism is or something. Glenn is an absolute pioneer in terms of breaking legitimate national security and American intel stories. It's a take that's not grounded in reality at all. No, it's not. And it's just used for clicks and like, this is part of the obsession by liberals and why it really makes me angry when I get, oh, you're just left just like this guy. And it's like, no, that's a liberal. That's a center or center left. I'm out there. Like, my people don't agree with that censorship bullshit. And, where if someone is speaking some way that you don't like personally, even if they're saying the truth or even if they're lying, you don't get to decide what they can and cannot say. It's not for you to decide. Okay. So that's that whole censorship thing that happened with the Hunter Biden story in New York Post was appalling, but that same shit has been happening to the left forever. So it's crazy Or maybe it's not crazy. The liberals then turn around and weaponize it well, since the liberals hate leftists more than anybody. So maybe they're the ones who are doing this to us to begin with. But now there's all these media outlets that are trying to get Substack canceled, which is where Glenn has moved, and people make money on there because they can't control it. They can't like censor them out of existence. It's just, oh God, it's a pretty dangerous time in terms of information. I mean, people should really only be supporting independent media, independent journalism at this point, because everyone else has been proven like crazily biased and false. The Bellingcat issue, the whole OPCW with Aaron Montes reporting, just basically exposing them as frauds, reporting on Syria. I mean, everything. The NSA, Snowden, like all the lessons we learned from Brazil. Jesus Christ, in Brazil. So the story of Brazil, in Glenn's latest book, there was a dictator that rose to power, and the way he rose to power was there was an anti-corruption wave that this one judge was reporting. So this one judge found all this information about this big corruption scandal with like the biggest company in Brazil, all these politicians, and he jailed everybody. He's like, no, you're all corrupt. It's all corruption. So obviously that person's very, very popular, right? He's getting rid of corruption. All politicians are corrupt. Well, this one politician sort of arises and goes, you know what? I agree with that. I'm going to fight corruption too. So he gets wildly popular along with this judge. This guy gets elected, and they go after the previous president. His name is Lula, and he is a leftist. It's the equivalent of like if Bernie Sanders was president for 2 years. He was president for 2 terms, this guy Lula, and when he was done with his final day, when he got termed out, he had like an 89 or 90% approval rating. That's insanity for a country of Brazil's size to have a 90% approval rating as you're leaving office. That's crazy. He wildly popular politician. But he was jailed for corruption afterwards, and it turns out through Glenn's reporting and all these leaks that were leaked to him that it was just a setup. These people that are running this anti-corruption wave, all these judges that were putting away, we're being tough on crime, putting away corruption. They were actually just manufacturing corruption and putting away people that were from the opposing political parties. So when they got elected, now they're the king. This guy Bolsonaro that was president is like, he constantly is talking about how great dictatorship is and how military regimes are like the way to get things done. He's crazy homophobic. He was on TV with some news organization, and they asked him about LGBT movement and things like that. And this is a president of a country, literally said he would rather find out his son was dead than gay. Like, what in the hell? A real human being actually thinks that? Like, but that's this guy, just like this demented leader. And so he jailed his competition, and a hacker had hacked all these emails and text messages between all these powerful politicians, including Bolsonaro. And he contacted Glenn Greenwald. Well, he actually contacted another politician that put him in touch with Glenn, because Glenn was known for the leaks from Edward Snowden about the NSA. And they knew that Glenn would do his due diligence and protect the source and all that stuff and be a professional. So they gave it to him, and like they leaked this shit that just basically blew up the politics in Brazil, just completely annihilated it. Just huge corruption scams. The guy that was basically touted as like a superhero, that judge, that anti-corruption judge, it basically put him in jail. Like, it was like, it freed the guy, the old president Lula, that was put in jail falsely. He was freed because of Glenn's reporting. So it's like, for anyone to come out and be like, oh, Glenn's just a, what an asshole, and what a, a scumbag, a terror reporter, he's a fascist, all this stuff, is so mind-bogglingly stupid to say about this person. Now, there have been many people, like Ryan Grimm even has said, like, listen, a lot of people don't like Glenn because he's very abrasive, and he's like, he is an asshole. And Ryan Grimm and Glenn are friends. But Ryan's like, he's an asshole. People think he's an asshole. He's an asshole sometimes. Yeah. But that has no effect on his journalistic capability, his core principle set is what Glenn always says, like, is what puts him on these different cases, because he has certain principles that are mostly anti-corruption and anti-security state, right? But that it's like an uncompromising thing. So, and that's what I sort of liked about Bernie as well. I talked about this in the past with Donald Trump, that Bernie was like this: if you have a beacon of truth against someone who lies all the time, the only solution to someone that lies all the time is that truth, right? So this is why people get so frustrated with Glenn, because the easiest way to sort of completely demolish these people's bad takes about Glenn is to be like, he's literally been doing the same thing forever. He has defended left journalists, he's defended right journalists. He doesn't care if those people are being censored. That is bad. It doesn't matter if they're left, right, nothing. The principle is no censorship. And if you hold that, then no one can ever be like, oh, well, you said this back then. He's like, nope, it's been the same the whole fucking time. And that's a really paraphrasing and sort of watered down way to sort of put what I'm saying. But yeah, the attacks on him are so ridiculous. There was someone that said to Ryan Grimm today, oh, well, you're turning into a full Greenwald soon. And I posted a tweet back saying, so Ryan Grimm is turning into a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, a journalist who has twice broke global scandals that have changed like all of society, as in huge countries and around the world. It won countless other awards for investigative journalism. Turning into that guy, and you're a journalist, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, someone said, I'm a baseball player, and someone goes, oh, you better watch it, you're gonna turn into Ken Griffey Jr. Like, oh no. Uh-oh, what am I gonna do? But yeah, but the book is very good, by the way. It's called Securing Democracy by Glenn Greenwald. It's very good. It's surprisingly an interesting read, and it's interesting to see the parallels between Brazil and America, and see how the waves have come and gone with their country. Although their country's been led by the left for a long time, the Workers' Party was in charge for a long time, like at least a decade, because Lula had 2 terms, and then his successor took over, and so a decade or more, and the policies were like widely popular. He had different policies for childcare, different policies for feeding children at school, so they didn't have to worry about that at home. All these like sweeping reforms, crazy popular with the people, go figure. And then the opposition party rises, that is this like the extreme right, like a snapback to military regime shit, which sort of leads to the same case that elected Donald Trump. I told you about the corruption in Brazil, and that's what was causing all this fervor, that there was this big corruption ring, and they were buying off politicians, these big businesses, and all these rich people and these oligarchs and all that stuff. Sound familiar? Well, it kept boiling for so long that people finally just said, Jesus Christ, like, I can't stand it. Like, we got to just get rid of politicians. And then when Bolsonaro comes up, he goes, you know what? I hate politicians too. Let's go back to the military regime time, who also hated politicians. There's not going to be any corruption because I'll just kill those people. And that all of a sudden seems attractive to some people there. Glenn Greenwald wrote in a passage in his book, and by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, Glenn is gay. He's married to David Miranda, who is a representative in Brazil now, a congressional representative. What was it just saying? Shit, I got sidetracked. So Glenn wrote in one part of his book that Bolsonaro was very, very anti LGBT, very homophobic. He was very racist to any sort of immigrant to Brazil. He was very sort of condemning the establishment and condemning big business and all that kind of stuff. Who does that sound like? Sounds like a lot like Donald Trump. Not necessarily the racism and anti-LGBT. I'm not necessarily accusing Donald Trump of that. But Glenn Greenwald basically said, like, he would have friends over and talk to them about who they're going to vote for, and they're supporters of Bolsonaro. And his friends are gay, part of the LGBT community. He has friends that are black in Brazil who, that's a racist target for Bolsonaro. And just talking to these people, like, how can you support this guy? And there, he writes a little bit about the answer, saying, like, because there are more issues than racism, right? So it's not that they're voting for him because of he is those things. It's they're voting for him despite him being those things, right? So it's when you push people to such a brink that society is collapsing, they can't eat, they can't work, they can't do anything, that sometimes when people have no other option, maybe chaos does sound like the right solution, right? And I don't blame Trump voters at all for that line of thinking. Any American that comes out here, and I've seen this a lot on Twitter, and I fucking hate it. It happens in the Twitch community or the streaming community, and I hate it. But the concept that anyone who voted for Donald Trump is racist. Well, Donald Trump's racist, or at least in their mind, Donald Trump's racist. So anyone that voted for him is automatically racist. And there's several follow-up questions you can ask to that. Okay, well, so then are you calling the, X number of million of black voters in America that voted for Donald Trump, those people are also racist? Any number of millions of Latino voters that voted for Donald Trump, those people are racist as well. Those people are anti-immigrant or whatever, xenophobic. That's what I'm thinking of. Well, yeah, anyone that voted for Bernie is a commie too, didn't you know? Yeah, that's right. But it's such a caveman thinking about someone's problems, about what might be an issue in their life. You're prescribing importance to someone else's life. So someone that can't eat, can't afford to feed their children, no job, credit card debt, losing their home, all this stuff, sick, can't pay medical bills, got, someone just died, can't pay different stuff, mountain of student loan debt, whatever, all this stuff. Jobs were shipped overseas, NAFTA closed down all the factories, killed the town, all this kind of stuff. Imagine telling that person that the reason they voted for that guy is because he's a racist, and not that his whole life has collapsed and he cannot see any politician trying to help him. It's a lazy argument. Yes, I agree. Yeah. And I agree with that. They're overlooking the real arguments, but they are they are choosing not to have the hard conversation, which I kind of understand in a weird way. Like, it's much, much easier to just say all Trump voters are racist than saying, well, there is like a pretty big issue with student loan crises. There's a big issue with corruption, and there's an issue with, the oligarchic upper class sort of controlling politicians that only do what they say. I guess, yeah, maybe there's an issue with jobs being shipped overseas, but besides all those 50 things, it's just because you're racist. It's such a dim-witted concept. So whenever I see people posting on Twitter like, "Oh, if you voted for Trump, unfollow me," it's just like, Jesus God. I don't know. Maybe Joe Biden and his team don't know this, but hungry people can't eat representation. They can't go oh, I'm super hungry, but at least there's more women in Joe Biden's cabinet. It's the same thing people say about the imperialist shit that Joe Biden pushes. Well, yeah, Joe Biden is bombing the same number of people and murdering the same number of Syrians and Afghanis, and continues to be best buddies with Israel and Egypt, who just routinely murder people in their country. But you know what? At least he's not racist. I mean, I'm just thinking, but if I were in uh, Syria or Afghanistan or whatever, and I was walking down the street with my family, and I saw a tank roll up and get ready to shoot us, I know the first thing I would say is, man, at least this huge tank mortar that's about to shoot my family to pieces isn't being shot by someone who's a racist. I mean, thank God. Can you imagine? It would hurt like way more if that was the case. The whole representation thing is another lazy thing to appease some groups, though. IMO. Get qualified people in there to fix the issues. I don't give a fuck they're black, white, or polka dot. Yeah, and that's and same. Yeah. Take whoever's gonna get the job done. I literally don't give a fuck. Whoever it is that gets people help is all I give a fuck about. I do not care what they look like. Show me nothing. Show me a computer screen. Don't even show me the representatives. Just show me the bill text. That'd be great. Don't you want to deal with like celebrity bullshit? Just have it be random people from around the country that serve in Congress as a duty, like, and rotate every 3 months or some shit. Like, I don't know. So frustrating. Anyways, I'm gonna pause for the night. I intended this one to be a little shorter. Looks like we've been about an hour, which is fine. I wanted to just talk lightly about politics. I do intend on running the politics show again consistently. So I look forward to. I'm thinking Mondays are a good day for it. So every Monday we'll pop in and talk a little politics, just for a short amount of time. But I want to say that dude, I gotta say, I like that 18-year term limit for SCOTUS. Yep, me too. That's the same type of concept. Like Roe and Bernie were actually working on a concept for the Supreme Court. The term limits were one solution. The other solution was, I think we talked about it before, that the Supreme Court justices would rotate out in federal benches. So like it wouldn't always be the same people in the Supreme Court. They would just rotate, which I thought was another reasonable idea. But yeah. I do like that idea too. But yeah, I wanted to make this one short. I cut a few clips. I'll put up this will be on broadcast there, but I'll cut like a little highlight show together and put it in the politics playlist. Thank you so much for hanging out. It's kind of fun to be back. I'll be interested to hear how the audio sounds and all the lighting stuff, since I just threw the shit together like last minute and started talking. So Discord is below this video. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you later.